Hello together. It might be a bit strange because today I am live in 3 locations, and it is YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. Just to give you an idea, we will have perhaps a few more comments, but I won't be able to read them. I have prepared some slides, and I don't really want to start with resilience immediately. I will give you a few more information before I start with the subject resilience. I am just reorganizing everything, so I won't see your comments at the moment. I will come back to those later when I have done, so to say, my presentation. And as you see, I've switched already, and I will have a large screen now, as you can see, and yeah, I can see your comments, so if you want to comment I can answer those. And I'm going to start with the stresses. It's got a reason, because if you don't know what is stressing you, you can't really know how resilient you really are. And as I go on, I will come to the resilience as well. So first of all, we have our daily events and occurrences. For example, traffic situations can be really stressful. And as I'm doing traffic psychology, I just have a new client who has, well, didn't really look at speed limits. He didn't keep his distance, etc. So I suppose he's a businessman. It was just time gaps were just too tight, so to say. So that is what traffic situations can be like. They can even lead to aggression, and that is what happened to my husband once. A driver, my husband wasn't fast enough for him, and he was really aggressive, and well, we calmed him down, but it was really a nasty situation. So unwanted phone calls. So when you are disturbed with phone calls all the time or a lot, that is when you're stressed as well. Negative people in your life. You know, these people who always moan, worry, they always see the negative in everything. These are things that really stress us, especially when they accumulate. And that's what you have to realise. Everything and every slice, which will come up now, is really even more stressful when it accumulates. So that is why I'm doing it, just to give you an idea where you need to be resilient and why it's so difficult sometimes to be resilient. Private situations, there could be a difficult relationship, a relationship where you often not talk really to each other, but you shout, you disagree, and that is really stressful. It can be tough to be in such a situation. Problems with children. I know mums, and especially single mums, who have a disabled child, and that can be really tricky, especially when you are in the phase of diagnostics. After the diagnostics is done and everything is settled, you've got your routine again, you've got your schedule, and it always gets problematic when disturbances are coming up. So problems with children or hyperactive children are really a challenge. I had a father I met in a train, and he said, I'm giving up on him. He is not getting anything done. He's excuse me, he's not really able to keep to schedule. He's not able to properly do something, etc. And well, I calmed him down a bit, but I think it didn't really help. But it can be really, stressful, just to let you know. So, illness in the family, we just had it. In July, my brother was diagnosed with cancer, spread lung cancer. It wasn't actually carcinoma, it was the epithelial, but it led to death. 2 weeks ago, he's died. And that was really stressful. It's still stressful because grieving is, and feeling sorry is, of course, stressful as well, but not as stressful as having an illness for a long time. We are happy he didn't suffer too much anymore. Financial problems. My sister-in-law, she is really afraid of the financial struggles she's going to face because, of course, the amount of money my brother brought, and he had a good, so to say, income, is dropping away. So she's now really stressed because of financial challenges or difficulties, and I can tell you, well, we will help her, and it might be that we will have to cut off costs as well, just to make sure we can support her. Factors relevant to work. Job insecurity is something really tough. If you have contracts which are for just a few months and you don't know how it goes on after that, that can be really tough, especially when you're employed, because when you're employed you've just got one income and it means 100% or none, and that can be very tricky. That is often a bit different with self-employed people and business people. They have got a few more income streams. More work in less time. That can become really stressful. I had it today. I had a training, a must training. I have to do 2 trainings a year, and one was today, and I was working beside that. So that was a bit tricky, and we are in one place, we are moving, so things are going to be prepared for that as well. So it was really stressful, and I got a new client as well, so there were quite a few things to do at the same time, and that means more work in less time. But it's all done now, and I can be with you. Everything is settled, and when I'm finished here, I'm going to sit down, and I don't know how you work, but I don't know whether you can see it now. I will just go out here, come back to you for a moment, and oh, you can't see it, sorry, it's in a plastic bag, but it's me, so to say, to-do list, and I have created it in a way that I've got an overview over the whole week, because I think that's quite good, and it makes it easier if you can't do something because you are running out of time, for example. You can just have a look at what day of the week can I do it best, and that's why I like to have an overview over the whole week. Just hang on, I'm back with you in a minute. So that is just an idea for you. Yeah, another thing is have nothing to say. That's so bad. If you can't decide, or no say indecisions, these two belong together for me. Have nothing to say, but you are just asked to do what somebody's telling you, and that is having nothing to say really, or no say in decisions. So whether you are putting, I don't know, a knife to the right or to the left, well, it might be told by somebody else where you have to put the stuff. And so being a salesperson, being in a bakery, can be really stressful because everything's organised and everything is done and you just have to do what you're told. So that can be stressful because as humans, we love to influence, we love to work and get a reward. That way you hardly get a reward because everybody tells you what to do. And you can hardly build self-confidence, self-esteem. So that is very stressful. Interruptions are a great way of stress. And that's where we come back to the phone calls. I told you unwanted phone calls are stressful, and these are often the interruptions you don't want. But they're coming in, and you're not asking for them. So that is something that stresses. Colleagues' relationship, we've already talked about family relationships, and of course colleagues are no different. If you've got a colleague or a supervisor, boss, whatsoever, who's straightforward, that might help. It might hurt at some point, but when you think about it, he often might correct you in a positive way. But if you've got somebody who is behind your back, that can be really tricky and nasty. So, yeah, be careful with these. Starting over a long distance, it means commuting, and commuting can be really stressful as well because you're always losing time of your life and of your leisure time. So just to give you an idea, these are definitely stressors which will stress you. Now I come to two types of people: stress resistant and stress affected people. We've got type 1. These are strong performance orientated, ambitious, high probability of heart attack, competitive thinking and declining. The second person, or type B, is relaxed, quiet, lightness towards life, forgiving, confident, happy to slow down the pace of work too. I suppose you can already guess which person or which kind of person is prone to stress. Type A. So think, what are you like? Are you a competitive person? But don't think if you are not a competitive person, you can't be successful. When I talk about it, I often like to talk about the Swedish population or people because they are really relaxed. They are not really stressed, but they are successful. And funny enough, as far as I know, the south of Germany is not as stressed as the north. But these are the Bundesländer or counties that are most successful. So think about it. They know what they are worth. They know of their qualifications. and they know how to be successful. And that way, if you've got this confidence, you can strive. And I've got a group of unemployed people, long-term unemployed people. I'm a psychologist in those, and I'm doing something like a group therapy. We haven't got any diagnostic or anything, so it's not really a therapy. But I'm with them now about 3 months, and even though they are long-term unemployed, one has taken on work now, and we were absolutely surprised because he came into this training and he wasn't motivated at all. And on October the 4th, he's starting a new job, and that is what I mean. So you don't really have to rush things too much. You just have to find the leverage to move people, to change the behaviour. And that's what people often don't see. We have to make decisions, and we have to commit to them. So another signs, what are physical signs of stress? Weight loss, weight gain. Some people really tend to eat sweets when they are stressed. And that is, can be actually end with adipositas. And if you don't want to gain weight, it could, or lose weight, it could help you to look for more resilience. A headache. If it's not migraine, it could be a headache of stress. High blood pressure, skin disorders, muscle pain, excessive fatigue, so you always feel tired, but it's not a tiredness because you've done something, but you feel no energy. It is really to do with energy. Ulcers, asthmatic cough attacks, and regular illness. So when you get flus or colds on a regular basis, think about stress. Emotional signs of stress. Well, you might be angry, irritated, or demotivated. You might have a depression, but when you have a depression, you are normally already in the stage of burnout. Sadness. Oops, stay here. You might have fears, and fears will lead to low self-esteem and helplessness. Overwhelm. So overwhelm leads to helplessness. Signs of stress in behaviour. Uncontained temperament, so you are getting angry, you are easily shouting, you are easily judging, you are full of prejudices. That can all be signs of stress. Increased alcohol consumption. I had quite a few people who drank and drove because of stress. In one case, her brother became ill. I think it was with cancer, I'm not quite sure. And she was a head nurse and she didn't know what to do. So she drank in the evening to get to sleep. Well, it ended up that she drank and drove and ended up with me. So I had to work with her, and we did, and she passed the test she had to take. Increased cigarette consumption. I just have got a client who is an alcoholic, and he had a relapse, and while he was in psychiatry to handle his relapse, he started to consume cigarettes like mad. He's smoking one cigarette after the next. Just to give you an idea. Sleep problems. You might have difficulties to get sleep or to sleep through the night. Uncontained temperament. Oh, we had that before, sorry. Blessed and increased feelings of hunger. Might be a good sign because your body is needing loads of energy. But as I said, it might also lead to weight gain. Aggressiveness, I mentioned that before. Absenteeism and presenteeism. That is referring to your workplace. You might take off Fridays and Mondays, so because the stress on your workplace is really high, so you don't want to be there. Or it can be that your boss or supervisor or your company wants you to stay a certain amount of hours and you are afraid to go before your boss. Social isolation. People who have stress tend to cut off their social friends, your social environment, because they think they have to work and to be productive. But the more they do it, the less productive they will be and are. So think about it, whether you really want to cut off your friends and cut your free time. Low sexual drive as well. Yeah, effects on thinking behavior. How do you think when you are in stress? You have a lot of negative thoughts. You're critical with yourself and others. You have got a really high expectation, and that's why you're so critical with yourself and others. Confused and unclear thoughts. You can't really concentrate anymore. You are tired, and therefore you don't give yourself enough time to recover, to re-energize. Focus on what goes wrong. You always see the bad parts of a situation. You can't see the chances it gives you. And even a situation which doesn't work properly is not a bad situation, because it's a learning situation, and self-development really is best when you are experiencing a negative situation, because that's where you learn the most. Indecision. When you are stressed, and that's what I noticed with me today, I'm not really able to decide anymore what I want to do tomorrow. So when I've finished this live, I will stop working, because I need to give my brain a rest. My brain has done a lot today, and it is not unhealthy to have stress. It is unhealthy if we don't stop when we have stress and relax. So it's like a sinus curve. We go into stress and we relax. We go into stress and we relax. And if we don't do that, we get into chronic stress, we get a burnout. And therefore, I will decide I'm not going to work when I'm finished here. It comes to exaggeration, because you see everything is large, everything is big, and it isn't. It's just totally normal. But you see it as a great thing, and many people experience it as well. But it is you who's exaggerating it and imagining it bigger than it is. A burnout. What is a burnout? Some experts believe that burnout is the chronic form of stress that can have long-term consequences and lead even to disability. It can actually lead to attempt or successful suicide. So don't underestimate stress and burnout, and that's why it's so important to be resilient, and that's why I want to discuss resilience with you today as well. So we've got the depression, and we've got the burnout. Development of hyperstress system. Life goals are rarely achieved. Early lack of drive. Different life experiences often lead to reduced, or can you stay here, to reduced drive. So these people don't have much energy, they are tired, they have difficulties of getting up. No improvement expected through performance. A stage of compulsive performance enhancement is often missing. Severe lack of drive with initial physiological and psychological exhaustion. And where does the burnout differ? Development of hyperstress system. So you see, we've got it in both, but the person who's running into a burnout doesn't see it. He doesn't understand that he's ill and needs help. More drive and stronger motivation. They are absolutely motivated and focused on their goals and achievements. Disappointing relationship experiences and lack of attachment are compensated by compulsive performance. So they stop, as I said, their social contacts, and they are really looking for performance, for success, for goals and visions to be achieved. Improvement of life situation is expected through increased performance. They don't understand that that doesn't work. And that is really important to understand. If you are in stress, you are not understanding, you are putting everything in, and if it's chronic, you don't have the energy anymore. You have to relax, you have to calm down, you have to take time off. Stress in itself is not bad, it's not unhealthy, but being in a stressful situation really often and constantly is unhealthy. Compulsive performance takes up space until total exhaustion. They are really fighting to get the results, and they are so tired they can't achieve them anymore. Severe lack of drive of initial psychological and psychological exhaustion. That's what happens as they run into burnout and don't stop working hard. They have to relax and to understand that they can't go on as they are, but often they don't. And that's why I'm doing it, because it is not all about resilience. It is to understand first, to reduce the stress level. And when you do that, resilience partly comes otomatically, but we come to that. Vulnerable individuals, we talked about this a bit before. Burnout occurs more frequently in occupations with the following characters: with high personal commitment, with high work expectations, and emotionally dependent on interpersonal situations. So these are, for example, nurses, policemen, special security, etc., etc. Come on. Oh, that's empty. Okay. So how do you develop a burnout? You have a high stressful situation. You have no researchers, determination, and these two factors imbalance your demands and resources. I told you before, when you have no say in decisions, or you just have to do what somebody's telling you, you don't have any resources that you can use, and you have high, so to say, a high stress level, and this is not really fulfilling your demands. It's, you don't have any resources. You don't have friends who can help you, and that is especially what happens when you cut off your social environment, and that leads to stress, to overwhelm, and then you get a phase of fatigue and exhaustion, and this demands internal high demands internal. Oh, I think something's wrong, but yes. Oh, internal determination, I suppose. No resource, internal determination. Oh, this slide is mixed up. Sorry for that. But it means with the fatigue and exhaustion, you run into burnout. And the burnout is something where you can't really recover anymore. So make sure you are reducing your stress level before you run into a burnout. Now we come to stress management techniques, and we come closer to the resilience model. So stress management strategies eliminate the stresses. That might be easier said than done, because when you are in a workplace and you love your work, let's take, for example, you are a nurse, that would mean you would have, for example, to change from a hospital to an old people's home. These old peoples are slower, and the level of work expectation might be higher in a hospital. So that might reduce your stressor. My client, when she was a head nurse, she stepped down from the head nurse and became a normal nurse. So she could do her whatever is required, didn't have the responsibility anymore, and drove home and could relax. So escape the stressor, change in stress perspective. As I mentioned before, stress is not really bad. It is good and it can be bad, but it is not in generally bad. Control the stress consequences. Gosh, funny. Oh, okay. So make sure you think about the behavioural consequences. That's something you really have to learn, because we tend to look at the short-term consequences, but we don't look at the long-term consequences. And for example, if you don't do sports, you might get diabetes at a certain age. When you do sports and eat little sweets, you might never become a diabetic. So think about it, and we often don't see that. When you do a lot of walks, that will add years to your life. When you socialize, that will actually add years to your life, because it reduces your stress. So, and there we are with the last point, social support. Get social support. Manage stress. Identify weak points. Identify your personal resources and signs of stress. That might seem obvious, but it is not, because when you really dive into it, you will notice there are far more tiny little situations that you don't expect. Expectations and beliefs. What expectations do you have, and what kind of beliefs? Do you have to be perfect? Do you have to please everybody? Etc. etc. There are so many beliefs. I think I had a list of 120 or so. I don't know whether I still have it. Self-sabotage. Overcoming weak behaviour. The thing is, why is it so difficult to overcome weak behaviour? Because first of all, this behaviour has become a habit. Our brain has learned that it is not needing much energy, because when you start changing your behaviour, you will need a lot of energy, because you haven't trained that behaviour, and it's a bit of trial and error at the beginning as well, and you might have to rethink all your consequences as well. So self-sabotaging the new behaviour is a lot easier and a lot energy saving. So building resilience, priorities and drivers. Set new priorities and look what could drive you. What are your motives? Activation and building up of resources. So when you need help, where can you get it? Strengthen stress tolerance. Strengthen your stress tolerance means produce a gap between the situation and your mindset. And you will notice that the tunnel view that you have experienced because of your stress, your hamster wheel is going or running a lot slower, and your tunnel view is widening. And when you widen your tunnel view, you will notice, as I always say, the bouquet of flowers is growing, and you can pick not only a rose with thorns, but you can daffodils and all these other little and lovely flowers you have in your bouquet, and you can pull one out, and it's a solution you perhaps have never used before. Change your evaluation of a stressful situation. Every situation, whatever it is neutral. The question is, how do you evaluate it? Overcoming negative feelings. Procrastination of tasks. That is, these people are not lazy. They seem to be lazy, but they aren't. They are afraid of the amount of work they've got, and you have to cut it into tiny little portions, and then you have to start. And the more success you have with what you postponed, the easier it will get to go on with it. Shouting, releasing pressure. That's shouting and releasing pressure is something to reduce the stress. And it might be not a good idea to use it there might be meditation a better way. Increase caffeine and nicotine. Well, you could reduce the coffee and the nicotine. You could drop completely if you're able, and set your mindset to it. Keep late hours. Yeah, you add hours of work just to make sure you get everything done. But if you increase your energy, if you relax, you have a lot more energy and especially concentration. So when you are really concentrated, what happens? You get work done with this click or snap, and you don't need to go on and go on and go on because you're indecisive, you are you can't concentrate, you don't know what you want to do, etc. And of course, alcohol consumption we talked about, it would be good you just drop it. Costs and benefits. This is what I mentioned before. We've got short-term and long-term consequences. If you've got a pessimistic attitude, you get less disappointed, less injured, but you will have lower success, lower health and happiness. Poor work-life balance. So that means you work a lot, but you are not balanced. You don't have any leisure time. You might earn very little, and because of that you have to work a lot, and that is not balanced. You should look for a work that brings in more money. More performance at work, avoiding responsibility and private private situations, private occurrences are dropped. Unhappy relationship, burnt out, guilt, regret, etc. Poor recovery balance. More performance in the short term feels more productive. And that is great. As I said, stress is not only a bad thing, but what we need is recovery. So if you don't recover, poor health, higher risk of burnout, determining under determining the relationship. Heavy alcohol and drug consumption, I think that's quite clear. Immediate relaxation and easing of anxiety, higher health risk, undetermined of the relationship, underdetermined, undermining, gosh blimey, what am I reading here? Disturbed concentration. I'm getting a disturbed concentration by now. Why is there so much stress-related illness today? Fragmentation and availability. Availability. Gosh, I've spoken German all day. That is a really big issue. We are fragmentating work more and more. And because of this fragmentation, people are not only going into a burnout, these people might actually go into a bore-out because they keep doing the same stuff all day long. So if you think of an assembly line and you're doing always the same, it might get boring. So that might bore you out, to be honest. And then we've got the availability, which means 24/7. We are on our mobile phones, we are on social media, etc. Everybody can call us, get us, reading mails, reading messages. And the question is, how are you handling those? Globalization and acceleration. Acceleration means the work we're doing is speeding up. So it means we might actually earn less but work more. Because things are speeding up, but wages are not following. So make sure you look for balance. Globalization means, and that's something a bit tricky, when we don't want to be stressed, we need enough sleep. That means, on general, 7 hours per night. The globalization is changing that, and it means you might be working at night because you're on the Philippines and you're working for a company in Europe. And that is globalization. It is stressing. 3 shift or shift work is stressful, and working for a different part of a continent is as stressful as shift work because there's nothing else. Increased distribution. So that is something, as we are more and more shipping, as we are more and more putting on eBay and online and so on, it is getting stressful and we have to distribute more. There is something I just think about and I haven't thought about before. In Germany, I heard that we have got 60% disturbances and 40% we really work. Just to give you an idea what shift of percentage it has been in the last, I'd say, 50 years. So lack of values, lack of meaning in life. That is what happens because we have to work even more, even harder, even faster, even smarter. And yeah, that stresses us. Ineffective behaviour. Most people know what health promoting habits are. But unfortunately, people with stress develop ineffective and even destructive behaviour. And that's why I say it's so important to balance and to find the balance. And if it means less money, accept it first. And then think, how can you do or make more money with less work? Many health-related habits are learned in childhood. The thing is, and the trouble is, when we were children, these habits were successful because our parents didn't force us to go out. Well, we've been out a lot, but many people or many parents are often nowadays, and that means already the last 20 years, so to say, the children are playing video games, and yeah, with that they hardly go out anymore. And we, at least here in Germany and in the West, we have little children in families, so that means not many children in families, so it's 1 child per family perhaps, or some are 2, and then they don't really live in one area anymore. That used to be different, but now they are more spread in villages, in towns and cities. Many habits that lead to poor health have no short-term consequences. I think we talked about that before. The process of change. How can I build up, or how can you build up and maintain the energy I need, especially in times when demands are increasing? And that's where we come to resilience. He who knows why he lives can endure almost everything. When I read that, I often think, even Nietzsche, I think, lived before, of the Holocaust survivors. They had a purpose, a meaning, a vision, even though they still died. But many of them I know had these, and that's why they survived. So what is important is priorities and drivers. What is really important for you in life? What are your goals? Do you have a vision? I always say, if you've got a vision, it pulls you and you will never give up. Are you trying to find a personal why for yourself? Here are some values that might help you to gain, I'd say that, to look for your priorities, because the values you won't change because these are characteristics. And therefore have a look, and for example, if family is really important for you, you might not want to found a million business, because you say, I want my family to be happy and I want to spend time with them. If you are loyal, you might start, for example, in a start-up company, and because you're loyal, you grow with it, you take responsibility, you want it to become larger, to do your best, and so on. If health is really important for you, you might become a fitness trainer, somebody, or a gym trainer, somebody who's really training people to do the best in a gym, etc., etc. Resilient people are people who are problem solvers. They are not standing there and don't find solutions. They will find solutions. And they are often very pragmatic. They have got a realistic optimism. The positive psychology at first was absolutely positive and they were always happy and so on. But what they didn't see is that we needed realistic. If we are too excited, we will lose because we don't have a plan B and C. If we get a realistic optimism, we have a plan B and C. Sometimes, if you want to change, it can be an idea just to have one plan and to go for it. But often, you've got hurdles, and these hurdles are making you think, what do I have to do? So be careful with just having one plan. A positive view on one's own abilities. They know what they can do. They know what they are capable of. And often, when you've got a vision, you will notice that you grow over whatever you expected. Control of feelings. That is what I mentioned at the beginning. They have a gap between what is happening and their feelings. They stay relaxed, whatever is going on. And staying relaxed is really important if you want to have a great bouquet of flowers and a range of flowers, not only roses. Frustration, tolerance, whatever happens, they are frustration tolerant. They know they have the responsibility and they take it. They even take the responsibility if they don't know they've got it. But taking the responsibility, even for others, will help you to find solutions. They are empathetic. No, empathetic sounds awful, but they have a lot of empathy, you know what I mean. And they are willing to take risks, but risks with calculated consequences. So developing resilience, when resilience was first researched, and that was about 1986, I think, and it was in South America, where some scientists were surprised that about a third of children is even from slums with alcohol, drugs, drug parents and aggression and so on are resilient. They have got characteristics that help them to build a life, a normal life like you and me. So, and then there was this question to say, we can't learn resilience when we're adults. But let me tell you, even you are able to grow your resilience, to grow as a person and to become more resilient. The ratio of material taking its original shape after being bent, pulled, compressed, elasticity. Gosh blimey. Now you say something, and that's where the word resilient comes from. It comes from material. So if you take a rubber and you bend it, it will go back to its original form. And that is why this rubber material could be caoutchouc for example, is resilient. But if you bend it too much, it will break. Because it was too much, and if you run into a burnout, you break. And that's why it's so important, this subject. The ability to recover physically, emotionally, and psychologically after change or hard situations, death, ordeal without long-term consequences. That is resilience, a definition of resilience on humans. So we've got 7 pillars of resilience. Result orientated. Leaving the victim position is a really important part, and taking responsibility goes with it. So if you leave the victim position, you start to take over responsibility. I talked about this customer of mine who just started to work. He has taken responsibility, and all of a sudden he sees goals he wants to reach, and he used to be, oh yeah, it's today and there will be tomorrow, and tomorrow will be like today. And all of a sudden he understood, I have to leave this victim position, I have to take responsibility, I have to go and step forward. These people are often network orientated, and as I've said or mentioned before, look for people that can help you. Where do you find those? And therefore it's no good idea to cut off your social contacts. Future planning. What are your future goals, your vision? Well, optimistic they can reach it, and accept the situation you're in right now, and be sure it doesn't have to stay the way it is if you are result orientated. But when I just read it, I wouldn't say result orientated, I'd say structure orientated. Why is it? Because leaders who, when a mistake has happened, good leaders are not looking how to improve and change the result. They are looking at the structure and are thinking, where do I have to adjust the structure that this mistake is not going to happen again? I hope you understand the difference. So I'd not say result oriented, I'd say structure orientated. Positive energy saving rituals. Nothing is easier in life than what we train regularly and what is familiar for us or to us. Through training we can change, we can transform. That is a really important part because, and it's what I mentioned before, and that's, I mentioned it when we came to changing behaviour. So positive energy saving rituals, you have to build up new rituals, new habits to gain, so to say, years of your life and to become more happy, to have a lighter, an easier life, so to say. Positive behaviour is social support, sports, food. Healthy food is giving you a lot of energy. Sleep, never miss a good sleep. A coach, a mentor, a supervisor. Self-confidence, you can build self-confidence when you start to go new pathways and succeed. Reward, and don't forget to celebrate every reward. Yeah, find a work-life balance. Rituals, stabilization zones, and recreation. That might be a bath with little rose flowers, etc. Work experience, cognitive challenges, and self-confidence. If you have cognitive challenges and you get them solved, you will be really proud of yourself. Improve personal relationships, financial compensation. So when you start working, you get financially better off, compensated, and it's not only that you can afford more, but you can be sure you will have money to invest. So if you are saving up money and putting it aside, you can invest, and that gives you even more self-confidence because you've grown again. Social support and life satisfaction. Social support, receive and request social support. Ask people. Don't be too afraid, don't be too proud. Ask. Buffer against stress. So which habits have you trained that you won't be stressed as much as you are now? Good network helps to be happy despite stress. Offers help in difficult personal situations and as a result reduces stress. Social contacts and support strengthens the immune system. As I mentioned, social support, socialization is even adding years to your life. Sports reduces tension and decreases it. It depends how much sport you do. Don't do too much because a marathon or an ultra can be stress as well to the body. Stress susceptibility decreases, blood pressure, blood lipids and blood sugar levels decrease, and that's important. Physical well-being increases, endorphins. Endorphins are a lucky hormone, happiness hormone, so that helps if you build that. That's why depressive people, when you go into a clinic, will always have walks because of the endorphins that a walk, a physical exercise, is developing. Self-confidence rises and heart diseases decrease. Techniques to strengthen resilience. Find your own strength. Find your strength and don't start to reduce your weaknesses. Look at your strength you've got. Develop an understanding of your own strength, self-awareness. So, what is it you can do best? And follow that passion. Strengthen and develop your personal strength. Expert status. If you are an expert in something, you are the one who's asked. That means at the same time, you are the one who knows. You are the one who decides. So it's not a situation of non-decisiveness because somebody's telling you what to do, but you are the expert, you ask, and you are going to answer. Set clear goals, set clear priorities. First of all, you set your vision, then you set your goals, milestones, and then you set your priorities. Recognize and respect your limits. Change your perspective from problem orientating to solution orientation. Be curious about change, phases of discovery. So go and explore. Learn to relax consciously with deep breath, meditation, mindfulness, for example. Oops, something's gone wrong here. We all experience stress. That's normal, as I mentioned. Subliminal stress can be positive. As I said, it will bring out the best in you. Imagine when you had a test at school, what did you do? You were excited, but you learned. And then you tried to bring out the best of you when you were sitting in front of the test. And that's stress. You can control many events that cause stress, but you will have events you can't control. So let it be. Let it go. Don't think you have to get control over it. It won't happen. Just let it go. It's never embarrassing to seek help. Ask for help. Very important. Change the way you access your stresses. Cognitive restructuring, so don't think negative. Come to the positive side and use it. Negative thoughts and self-talk, stop thinking positive thoughts. I always say, stop it. And I always do it like my fingers are up and it's like pushing it away. And that's what I always say to my clients. Stop it. And then start rethinking. That was it so far. Let me come back to you. As far as I've seen, you didn't have any questions. It's nobody here on Facebook anyway, I can see that. So, do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions, I will stop for today, and I wish you a wonderful weekend and a great evening. At least here it is evening, or a great day wherever you are. And I'd say bye for today.